In 21st century Serbian public heard for the first time about stolen babies in Yugoslavia. What happened? Before War II, women in Yugoslavia gave birth at home. They were attended by doctors, midwives, and female relatives. Switching babies or stealing babies was impossible. After World War II, Yugoslav authorities insisted women had to give birth in the hospital. Plus, women in labor were separated from their families. Husbands weren't allowed to visit their wives and newborn children. Maternity wards in Yugoslavia were places where horror stories happened. Women who suffered miscarriage were placed in the same room with new mothers. Babies were brought to mothers only during feeding time. Mothers weren't informed about health of their babies. Sick babies were transported to other hospitals without parental consent. Parents had no control over what was happening. Some babies died, and their parents believed they were in fact stolen and sold to the childless couples. Most alleged cases happened from 1960s to 1980s. Healthy babies suddenly died, and parents weren't allowed to see the bodies. Parents weren't given bodies to bury. Hospital officials insisted that the hospital take care of the bodies. Many families started questioning the official story because the details didn't match. There were no records of burial taking place. The protocol of birth says the baby was a boy, but death certificate says it was a girl. One family was visited by military police 18 years after the death of their newborn. The military police wanted to arrest their dead son for dodging draft. The most peculiar thing was that the parents never named their son because he was stillborn. Stillborn children in Yugoslavia weren't given names. Then how could military police have a name of the boy? Some babies were supposedly cremated, but there was no crematorium in the area. Parents were often told that documents were destroyed in a flood or a fire. How many suspicious deaths we are talking about? According to some estimations, around 10,000 children were stolen in Yugoslavia. In Serbia, there were 1,500 reported cases. The names of certain doctors repeated in the statements of the parents. Some hospitals were flagged as hotspots for stealing babies. Unknown people visited maternity wards with gynecologists. Parents believed the people came to select the babies and see the mothers. There were no cell phones, so mothers couldn't contact their families even when they noticed something strange was going on. One man came forward with a story about failed adoption. He was a Yugoslav citizen working and living in Germany. In 1988, he came to Belgrade, capital of both Serbia and Yugoslavia. The man and his wife wanted to adopt a child. He was taken to a maternity ward and showed women who just gave birth. He was told to select woman who resembles his wife the most. Later, he was shown the baby of that woman. He could take the baby for 10,000 Deutschmarks. Adjusted to inflation, it would be 12,000 euros or dollars today. The documents would say that his wife gave birth to that child. The man spoke to his wife and they decided not to adopt. The couple felt the situation seemed illegal, but they had no idea that the babies were stolen. They were told that mothers were unwed university students. But how was it possible for so many unwed university students to give birth at the same time? In 2013, the European Court of Human Rights issued a verdict in the case of Zorica Ivanović versus Serbia. Serbia was found guilty of failing to provide families with information about their newborns. Zorica was awarded monetary compensation, but she received no information about her child. In 1983, Zorica gave birth to a healthy boy in Ćuprija, Serbia. Ćuprija is a small town with roughly 20,000 people. The day after giving birth, Zorica was told that the baby had died. She wasn't allowed to see the body. There was no record in the register of deaths that her son died. Parents formed associations. They want DNA databases and for the secret police archives to be opened. The main question is how much was the state involved in the baby thefts? Could such criminal operation be conducted without state knowledge? I would like to compare situation to what happened in Spain. Franco controlled Spain between 1939 and 1975. The children, both newborns and toddlers, were taken from leftist families. Also, unwed women were pressured to give away their babies for adoption. By late 1960s, fewer people willingly gave children away. Doctors and Catholic nuns started taking babies from unwed or poor married women. Both Francoist Spain and Yugoslavia were totalitarian regimes. People in Spain and Yugoslavia were afraid to question the authorities. According to some estimations, 15% of adoptions in Spain included stolen children. Stealing babies in Spain was a much bigger operation than in Yugoslavia. Yugoslav families weren't targeted for their political affiliation or their status. The only pattern was that mothers were young. They were told they would have more children in the future. Yugoslav women with twins were also targeted. Usually one baby would be taken. The parents were left with one twin. In some cases, the twins were identical. Personally, I think taking identical twin would be too risky. There is always a chance that twins might meet as adults. If they are identical, they would figure it out immediately. When Spanish public learned about the stolen babies, some parents exhumated their children's remains. They did DNA tests to see if the children were theirs. Many parents in Yugoslavia got false hope that their newborns were alive. I heard comment that many parents started believing their children were alive only after watching Latin American telenovelas. Latin American telenovelas often include storylines about stolen children or switched babies. I would say telenovelas helped people realize what happened to them. I do believe criminal groups worked together and stole babies, but I don't think they could have done it too often. The number of 1,500 stolen babies in Serbia seems legit. If we divide 1,500 with 20 years, that's 75 stolen babies per year. Serbia in 1960 had 190,000 live births. Stealing 75 babies wouldn't be a problem. But I don't think Tito was involved in stealing babies. One child was taken by a member of secret police in 1981 and given to the agent's cousin. The adoption papers were forged with false names of the birth parents. In such cases, it is hard to say if this was baby theft or just illegal adoption with the knowledge of birth parents. DNA databases could solve many problems. Clerical errors are another problem. In Yugoslavia, nepotism ruled, so many people got jobs they had no qualification for. This means that many uneducated people worked at registry offices. I will tell you about clerical error I witnessed. Years ago, my grandfather died on 13th and was buried on 15th of the same month. Registry office wanted to issue death certificate with 15th as the date of death. My family had to go to the supervisor and cause a scandal in order to get the right death certificate. My family was told that we are in shock and misremember the date of death. We managed to find original death certificate that states my grandfather did die on 13th. How could registry office change the date of my grandfather's death? Why would they do it? This has to be a result of their sloppiness. I think similar thing happened in many cases of suspected stolen children. Now parents believe their child is alive because people in the registry office didn't know how to do their job. Some bodies could have been taken for medical research. Yugoslavians almost never donated bodies for medical research. However, Yugoslav authorities would have had to steal babies to meet adoption needs. Abortion was very popular in Yugoslavia. Almost all unwanted pregnancies ended in abortion. This means there were no babies available for adoption. Adopting a healthy baby in Serbia is almost impossible. Children given up for adoption usually have severe disabilities. I read about one boy who was born with heart deformities. He was abandoned by his parents and he wasn't available for adoption because his condition was terminal. He died aged 1 year without ever leaving maternity ward. Adopting older children is unpopular because of the trauma they experienced. They either lost their parents or were taken from abusive families. Adopting Roma-Romani child is unpopular due to prejudice against Roma. If Yugoslav authorities wanted healthy babies, they would have to steal them. Were babies stolen in other Yugoslav republics apart from Serbia? It seems likely, but Serbia was most open about the issue. Serbian tabloids published dozens and dozens of articles about the stolen babies. I think parents from other Yugoslav republics are afraid they would be accused of being conspiracy theorists. Serbian society is ready to accept such story. Of course, Serb extremists believe that only Serb babies were stolen, because they are more beautiful and healthier than other babies. Muslim families in Yugoslavia demanded bodies of their babies to be buried according to their religion. They were given bodies to bury. Some believe that this practice prevented Muslim babies from being stolen. Baby thieves wouldn't be able to find so many baby bodies to give to the families. When did baby stealing stop and why? According to the newspapers, the last cases of stolen babies happened in early 21st century. Doctors and nurses involved in stealing babies retired or died. Parents became aware of the possibility of their child being stolen. Parents today are more paranoid and suspicious. Family members are now ready to confront doctors and call police immediately. Husbands are now allowed to attend the birth. Women have cell phones and can call their families if something happens. Many maternity wards in Serbia now allow babies to be with their mothers all the time. Also, DNA tests transform the world. Finding birth parents is now much easier than before. Who did adopt Yugoslav stolen babies? It is believed that most kids were adopted by Yugoslav couples living in foreign countries. They would have had enough money and connections to get a baby. Some children were supposedly adopted by important Yugoslav families. I would like to mention one important detail. In 1984, Yugoslav movie Groznica Ljubavi was made. Groznica Ljubavi translates as love fever. In the movie, university student gets pregnant and gives birth in secret. Her mother forces the student to give up the baby to a German couple. This is illegal adoption without the knowledge of Yugoslav authorities. The baby's father learns the truth and kidnaps the baby. Yugoslav police helps young parents reunite with their baby at the airport. The movie suggests that illegal adoption exists, but Yugoslav police is fighting against it. The main movie villain is the baby's grandmother. The state is completely innocent according to the movie script. In 2020, Serbs made a limited TV show called Kalup. Kalup translates as the mold. The name comes from the tissue taken from stillborn children and preserved in the hospitals. Parents want that tissue to confirm their children are deceased. Private investigators spent 4 episodes trying to discover the truth behind the stolen babies. The mold is much more serious and dark than love fever. Were some children reunited with their families? Newspapers claim that some DNA tests came back positive, but none of these alleged cases got epilogue in the court. This means that nothing is official. Time is working against parents and children. Many died without learning the truth.